What's going on, guys? Here's Hydro Spy, and I'm here with my Aggro Grimm, mid-range Grimm deck profile that I managed to place top 8 in at the ARG in New Jersey, Edison, New Jersey. I got the idea from pretty much all the odd Grimm decks I saw, as well as the Bloody Grimm. I thought the idea of like mid-range and Aggro Grimm was pretty sweet, but I didn't like the idea of limiting my deck's options with March Hare, and sometimes the spell that requires odd cards. So pretty much what we did was we cut the odd cards, and that allowed us to run even cost cards to make the deck just do what it wants to do better, I think. So yeah, this is the deck list. I'm going to go on to individual cards right now. So first off, we have 4 Tinkerbell. We're running a Grimm deck, so Tinkerbell is pretty much a staple in an aggro Grimm deck, at least. It's going to buff itself. When you play more Fairy Tales, it buffs even more. There's not too many Fairy Tales, but it's just a nice 1-drop to have in a deck like this. Next up is 4 Hunters. This is good in pretty much any aggro deck. Especially good in Grimm because late game it's not as good and you can just pitch it for something more powerful. And then an odd kind of card is the Wolf Haunted in Black Forest. It's not a Fairy Tale, it's a werewolf. It's mostly just run because it's a 5/3. It does have a drawback, you take 500 damage. Neat interaction is apparently when Blazer's on the field and this dies, you don't take damage, so that's cool. Also, you're going to see we run Luguru later, so that'll give this card haste, or swiftness, as it's called in this game. Next up is Glinda. Pretty much the reason why I wanted to stray away from the odd variation of this deck. I think Glinda is really powerful. In an aggro deck, Glinda just allows you to get in some attacks that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. So she's good in that aspect, as well as the negation. And negation is very relevant, especially in a deck like this where you want to make sure they can't absolute cake zone your split heaven and earth, or just various things they can do. This really stops some plays. It's a really strong card for a mid-range and aggro deck. Next up is 4 7 Doors. We're running this because a 7/7 is really hard to deal with, especially for 2 mana. Obviously Rapid Decay is the perfect answer, and it's gonna hurt when they do that, but this card doesn't get demolished by feasting the Resonator. So when he attacks, they can draw feasting, but this guy, at least he can run over feasting. When like a 5/5 attacks, they can just drop feasting and block the 5/5 and it'll die. So a lot of times what you're going to do with this deck is try and play around feasting as much as possible if you know your opponent's running green, heavy green decks. So yeah, this card is very good. It doesn't get bolted. Sure, it gets flames, but it's only 2 mana. It's just powerful. And always attacking isn't really a drawback. It's almost never going to hurt. 3 Luguru. This card was amazing this weekend. I would definitely consider upping it to 4. He gives himself haste. He gives your Wolf Haunted in Black Forest haste. Where is she? And when they attack, it deals another 100 damage each attack. So let's say you have a Wolf Haunted in Black Forest and him in your hand. You're always going to want to play them both, obviously, but you're always going to want to attack with the other werewolves first. So attack with Wolf Haunted first, so to make sure it has the haste for before the Luguru gets killed by something, you know. 1 Rapunzel. This is the card I was underwhelmed with this weekend. It did almost win me a game. It pushed like 24 damage one game, but that's the best it did this whole weekend. I didn't really draw it much. I just liked it for the toolbox with Grimm, but I'd consider cutting it for the 4th Luguru maybe. And then 2 Pied Piper. We run Telefairy Tale, so this is obviously a good card. I don't want to run too many of it because it's going to affect the curve of this deck. Something I like about this deck is I'm always playing, I'm always using all of my mana every turn, so it's just a really powerful deck because of this. And when you're running like 3 Grimms, sometimes you're going to have hands like early game with, 3 Pied Pipers. Sometimes you can have just like early Pied Pipers in hand, and sometimes you might have to discard them for Grimm, and you just wasted a mana doing that. So I'd rather just run 2 and make the deck a bit more consistent. And then 2 Blazer. This was a last minute addition. We're running Blazer because the deck runs out of steam late game, And I was considering First Light, but the problem with that card is all it's going to draw you is like 1 and 2 drops. I figured Blazer will do pretty much the same thing. You can play the Blazer. If it dies, you can keep playing it. It's almost like drawing a Blazer every time it dies, right? So it's good in that aspect. So those are the the Resonators. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 28 maybe. Onto the spells, we got 4 bolts or thunders. It's just good when you attack with you know, heavy attackers, like even a 7 dwarves and they block with something. You can bolt thunder it to get the attack go through directly, and this deck does like dealing damage. Yeah, and that's why we're running also 2 Duel of Truth. They pretty much act as the 5th and 6th thunder. Not much more to say about this card. I was running Rapid Decay, but I figured this would be better because when they have multiple guys that cost 2 or less, you can Rapid Decay one, sure, but they can still block with the others. With this one, when you attack, you can Duel of Truth the blocker that you're, you know, that they block with, so your attack goes through. Then we have 3 splits. I really like the number 3. I'm siding the 4th. I'm going to side it against anything that has, you know, dual stones. Just a really powerful card. When you're not winning with Blazer, you're probably winning with this. Yeah, not much more to say about it. And then finally, 3 Telefairy Tale. I was running 4 Telefairy Tale, but there's just a lot of 3 drops in this deck. It is a really powerful card, but yeah, there's just a lot of 3 drops, like I said. I don't really have to explain it. I mean, I could consider cutting it. If I cut this, I could cut all the white stones in my deck. But yeah, it's just a really powerful card. So that's the 40 card deck. Of course, we're running Grimm. I'll get to the stones real quick. It's pretty simple. We have 5 Stone of Flames, 4 Stone of Heat Ray, because you need light for Telefairy Tale, and then we got 1 Little Red. Little Red was the MVP. A lot of the times I have my 7 Dwarf. You know, you can buff it at the start of your turn before you untap, and you can buff it again, make it 11. You can combat with Blazers and stuff, setting your opponent back. I mean, that's a worst case scenario, but this card just helps you deal some more damage, and that can really help. It also helps you play around cards like, what's it called? Crime and Punishment stuff. It's just a really sweet card. It's one of my favorites in the deck. If you notice, there is a lot of special stones, so sometimes I do take a good amount of split damage. That's why I kind of want to consider cutting Telefairy Tale altogether and cutting these for just basic flame stones. Onto the side deck real quick. 2 little prints for the burn matchups that get your life low real quick. He also can be pretty buff in this deck. I was almost considering maining him over the 7 Dwarves because they're similar, but 7 Dwarves is always going to be 7, so it doesn't get feasting, and that's what I really liked about that card over this card. But yeah, very powerful card against, you know, decks that get your life low quick. 4 Kai for the Abdul matchup. Normally this card is pretty useless, but against Abdul he doesn't get the enter, that doesn't let him attack or block, so it's just a 3-mana 12/12 against Abdul. Not much more to say. That's insane against Abdul. 3 Bullet of Envy for the burn matchup. They're going to get your life lower than you most of the time, then you can equip it to one of your dudes. It's going to get 800 more attack and defense, and it's just going to be able to, you know, kill all their guys and, you know, have more attack. So this card, I didn't get to play against many burns, so I couldn't tell if it was good, but it's definitely a sweet card. 1 Emperor with the new clothes, just if I was to play against the Sinbad deck. I actually did play against the Sinbad deck last round of the tournament. I ended up drawing with them, but this did come in handy because they ran Flying Carpet and Blazer, and my life was getting low, so if they top decked Flying Carpet, they couldn't use it, and this was on the board, so that was nice. 2 Rapid Decays, just some more removal against early game decks, maybe like mirror match decks like Aggro and stuff like that. 1 Grimm. Grimm was very good this weekend. Played against a lot of dark decks. Played against mostly Abduls this weekend, so obviously a good answer to Abduls, Mephistopheles decks, stuff like that. The 4 Split, just going to side this in against, you know, non-basic stone decks pretty much. And then finally, the 3rd Duel of Truth. I main 2, I side 1 because when I side in the Kais, this comes in because it just becomes an insane card. Kai plus Duel of Truth against Abdul. What are they going to do, right? So that's the deck, guys. Really strong deck. Wouldn't change too much. There was a guy running like a mono red Grimm with Kais and Gyarados in the main. He was the one guy to beat me in the tournament. It was a very sweet deck. His deck. It was very similar to mine. He pretty much ran almost the same deck, just with Kais and Gyarados instead of like the Werewolf package. So yeah, that's the deck. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.